Really excited to open the SNP's general election launch today, because this election, like many other young people across Scotland, I will have my first ever chance to vote in a general election. Lots of people here today have told me about theirs, some going back further than others, and I want to remember it as an election where I voted for a party that reflects my values, Scotland's values. An election where I voted for a party that will stand up for me, my friends, my family and Scotland. An election where I voted for a party that looks after the people of Scotland. It's clear that only by voting SNP will I be able to do that, because the choice between the Tories and Keir Starmer's Labour Party is no choice at all. No Westminster party is offering anything other than more of the same, from Brexit to austerity, that can't be sold to people like me as no other choice. I know it's not. I have seen that political parties can make better and fairer choices. I'm currently at university, like hundreds of thousands of others. That is only because I have not had to worry about tuition fees, because the SNP scrapped it. At school, I saw so many children and young people benefiting from the SNP's anti-poverty measures, like free school meals. When my friends and I were taking part in the climate strike, fighting for our future, we saw the SNP taking real action against the climate emergency. And I even got here today by using the bus pass the SNP provided for all young people under 22. These are policies that matter. They're making a real difference to the lives of everyone. So while the parties at Westminster continue to ditch every progressive policy that young people are crying out for, I will remember my first ever general election as one where I voted SNP. I believe that most of our young people will be doing the same, not just because it's clear that the only way Westminster will listen to Scotland is if there's SNP MPs making our voice heard, but because my generation will benefit most from getting rid of the right-wing Westminster government for good, by seeing Scotland become independent. Thank you.
If I may, before I begin, I just want to reflect upon events last evening in Yemen. It has come as a surprise to me that I am actually here in Glasgow today, as much as I do love this city, because myself and my colleagues in this room should currently be in Westminster questioning the United Kingdom Prime Minister for his decision to launch military action. It is right that Parliament be recalled this weekend so the MPs across the board can better understand the decision that has been taken, but also get answers on the consequences and what comes next. You're right to be angry at Westminster. Sounds like I could have said that, but it wasn't actually me. It was the leader of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer. And for a change, I agree with him. People are right to be angry with Westminster, because it is Westminster that gives Scotland Tory governments that we don't vote for. It's Westminster that's given us Tory austerity. They gave us Brexit, they gave us Boris, they gave us Partygate, they gave us Liz Truss, they gave us economic collapse, and which now has given us a billionaire Prime Minister who looks on at the cost of living crisis from his private jet. People are right to be angry about Westminster. What we know is that the Tories are going to lose the election because of all those things and so many more. It's not good enough for them just to lose the election. I want to see the Tories wiped off the electoral map in Scotland. And the reality is that only a vote for the Scottish National Party can make that happen. Because in half the seats, in Scotland, it's a straight fight between the Tories and the SNP. So if the people of Scotland want our nation to be Tory-free, they should vote SNP at the election this year. Because the challenge in front of us is much bigger than that. The challenge facing all of us in politics at this moment in time is to inspire people, to have that battle of ideas. It's not good enough to just sit around and let your opponents collapse as the Labour Party intend to do. You have to be confident about what you stand for and what you believe in. So we're ready for that battle of ideas. If we want to have that battle of ideas on the cost of living crisis, then let's have it. Because the Scottish National Party, we're clear in our values. We're clear that households need support with their energy bills, their mortgage bills, and their food bills. If we want to have that battle of ideas on the economy, then let's have it. Because the SNP are clear that the best way to boost our economy is to rejoin the European Union. If we want to have that battle of ideas on migration, then let's have it. Because the SNP, we are clear in our values that migration is good for our economy, for our social care service, and indeed our NHS. If we want to have that battle of ideas on energy policy, then let's have it. Because we are clear in our values that in energy-rich Scotland, people shouldn't be living in fuel poverty, and we must invest in that future to net zero. If we want to have that battle of ideas on foreign policy, then let's have it. Because the SNP, we are clear in our values that there must be humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza now. And let us be clear, it is only Scottish National Party MPs who will give voice to those values. Unlike the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, only the SNP will always stand up for Scotland. Only the SNP will always put Scotland's interests at the forefront of everything that we do. We will be Scotland's voice in Westminster. We will protect and promote Scotland's values and Scotland's future. And Scotland's future is a precious thing. It's worth standing up and defending. It's worth fighting for. And we are clear that what we want to see Scotland's future in Scotland's hands. It's why we believe in independence. Westminster doesn't work for Scotland, and it is not going to change because it never has. And let's ponder this. The ultimate truth is that any Labour MP from Scotland who gets their seat under the table in Westminster will take independence off it as soon as they get there. And we cannot allow that to happen. Friends, let's be confident. Let's be confident in our values. Let's be confident in the fact that we are Scotland's voice. We will always protect Scotland's values, and we will always promote Scotland's future. And as a wee bonus, let's make sure we get rid of the Tories too. For SNP to be Tory-free. Now folks, it's my job this morning to do one more thing, and that is to welcome onto the stage our party leader, our First Minister, Humza Yousaf.
Very kind of you. Thank you and good morning, everyone. And thank you to Stephen. Can I say that I am just one of many Scots who enjoys watching you week after week run rings around Rishi Sunak. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for standing up for Scotland so well every single week. And let me also thank Hannah as well for her inspirational introduction. You remind us all, every single one of us, every single one of us, just what is at stake for our current and indeed our future generations when it comes to this important election. And just as Stephen did, perhaps I can take a moment before I start talking about the general election by addressing the events overnight. Every single person here believes that UN Security Council Resolution 2722 should and must be adhered to, that the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea must stop. We are consistent, and the SNP have always been consistent in our position, that we believe all UN resolutions should be adhered to. We don't believe that countries should be selective what UN resolutions they choose to comply with. Before action, serious military interventions took place, the MPs, who have been elected, of course, to represent the people, should have had their say. The UK, let's be honest about this, does not have a good track record when it comes to military intervention, particularly in the Middle East. That is why the House of Commons should have been recalled today, ahead of military action that was taken, in order to allow our MPs to debate and, yes, to scrutinise the UK government's plans for military action. If we have learned anything from the past, that decisions to instigate military action should be evidence-based. Basis. You need to articulate what's their objective, what's their end goal. They need to give detail about security advisory. What are the security implications of their actions, both in the region and here at home? Our fantastic MPs, those in this room, have been ably led by Stephen. They have been at the very forefront of calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Today we reiterate that call. We demand that all parties in this conflict agree to an immediate ceasefire. Too many innocent children have been killed already. It is time for the inhumanity to end. We need to ensure that the UK, indeed every country in the world, cares about the thousands of children that have been killed as much, in fact more, than they care about carbon. Friends, let me move on to why we are here today. It is good to be with you in the city of Glasgow, and to be here looking ahead to what will be a very important year for Scotland. And no, I'm not just talking about Euro 2024, although I've no doubt at all that Steve Clark and our fantastic men's team will make us all proud. Stephen tells me he's already bought the ticket. They'll show everybody exactly what Scotland can offer when we are, of course, represented at the top table of Europe. But today I want to talk to you about something that is another big moment, of course, this year for Scotland. So by the time we get to Euros in June, we may be coming just out of an election campaign, or if you believe Rishi Sunak's working assumption, then we will be heading into one. Either way, this election represents a huge opportunity for Scotland. And today, I want to tell you how I think together we can ensure the best outcome for our country. So let's be absolutely clear at the outset. Sunak is finished. He's done as PM. The Tories are done. Thank goodness for it. The damage that they have caused to Scotland's people is simply unforgivable. And this year, we can rid ourselves of a Tory government that Scotland did not vote for. And the SNP, as Stephen has rightly said, is by far the best placed party to do that. In every Tory-held seat north of the border, we are the party in second place. And today, therefore, I'm setting out that ambition for the SNP to not only win the general election, but let's wipe the Tories from Scotland's electoral map by winning every single Tory seat in the country. It's a big ask, I know, but I don't believe you go into elections unless you're willing to be ambitious. See, it's also the case that more than half of the SNP held seats, it is the Tories that are in second place. So, to people right across Scotland, our message will be very clear. Vote SNP for a Scotland free from Tory MPs. What a prize. But it's not the only one. It's very clear now that Keir Starmer is going to be the next Prime Minister of the UK. I'll have more to say about that in just a moment. But history has shown us that the only certainty of a Labour government is what? Is that it will be followed by another Conservative government. Scotland needs more than just a brief respite from the damage of Tory rule, especially when that brief respite seems to offer so much more of the same. Friends, we need to get rid of Tory unelected governments in Scotland for good. And that is the prize. Because when we vote this year for a Tory-free Scotland, let us remember the moment. And that should encourage us, that should give us resolve that Rishi Sunak will be the last ever Conservative Prime Minister imposed upon Scotland. That is a prize worth. You see, the last few years have been a very hard lesson about what happens when you let others choose your future for you. We didn't vote for this Tory government. We didn't vote for austerity and cuts. We didn't vote for Brexit. We didn't vote to leave the world's largest trading bloc. We didn't vote for the disastrous mini-budget. We didn't vote for the constant attacks on social security. We didn't vote for the hostile environment on immigration. Yet every single one of these disastrous decisions, and more, has weakened Scotland's economy, damaged our public services, and led to the cost of living going through the roof. That's why we need to work harder than we've ever worked before to ensure that Scotland regains her independence. So that in the future, every decision about Scotland is made by the people who live here. Friends, the UK is heading down the wrong path. Of that, there's simply no doubt. What is worse is that there's this unhealthy cosy Westminster consensus. Our MP colleagues will have noticed that when they're down there in the House of Commons. That cosy consensus between UK-based parties over the last few years. One which meekly accepts a Westminster economic system that has failed too many, caused so much suffering, and refuses to acknowledge that a better future is possible. And where is that cosy Westminster consensus leading us to? It leads to Labour and Liberal Democrat politicians who once warned that Brexit would be a disaster are now rolling in right behind it. Despite the evidence, of course, telling us, showing us, demonstrating that it's been a complete and utter unmitigated disaster. What else does that cosy Westminster consensus lead to? It leads to a Labour Chancellor in waiting saying she will maintain Tory spending cuts. Just at the moment, the country is crying out for investment in our public services. What else is leads to? It leads to a Labour Health Secretary in waiting, promising he will, in his words, hold the door wide open to private sector involvement in the NHS. It leads to a Labour leader saying that he'll keep abhorrent Tory policies like the rate clause, and in his words, apply them more fairly. And friends, it leads to the grotesque image of Labour frontbenchers losing their jobs after they dare to support striking workers in a picket line, or when they back SNP calls for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The people of Scotland deserve so much better. Time after time, when people are looking for leadership, Labour under Keir Starmer, well, they're just posted missing. It's only SNP MPs that are willing to break that cosy Westminster consensus and to speak out for what is right and to ensure that our country, that Scotland's voice is heard. There is my good friend Steve, who every week holds the Prime Minister to account on the real issues of the day. It was Joanna Cherry, who led the charge against Boris Johnson's disgraceful and unlawful attempts to shut down Parliament. It was Alison Thewlis, who forensically and relentlessly campaigned against the cuts to child benefits and the abhorrent rape clause. It is our very own Marion Phelps, who for years has tirelessly pursued the UK government to deliver justice for sub-postmasters caught up in the Horizon. It is SNP MPs who repeatedly demand real action to tackle the cost of living crisis. It is SNP MPs who have demanded time and time again bold and ambitious action to tackle the climate emergency, while both Tories and Labour turn their backs on the most pressing of issues. And friends, it was the SNP who had the moral courage, the moral clarity to demand an immediate ceasefire to stop the ongoing killing and the ongoing bloodshed in Gaza. And on these, so many other issues, it is SNP who have spoken out for what is right, crucial, who have spoken up for Scotland. Why? Why do we do that? We do that because it is who we are. These are our values. I believe they are Scotland's values. It's our core belief that decisions about Scotland should be taken by the people of Scotland. For Labour and Tories, it is Westminster that should have the final say. And that is the fundamental choice before the people of Scotland. You can elect a Labour MP who will stand up for Keir Starmer and Westminster. Or you can elect an SNP MP who will stand up for Scotland and ensure we are not ignored. Friends, I don't pretend that the SNP has achieved everything that we have set out to achieve, but I am proud of what we have delivered for the people of Scotland in the face of extraordinary headwinds over the years. See, we believe in a social contract for the people. One where, yes, we do ask those who earn the most, like the top 5% of earners in this country, to pay a little bit more income tax. But as a result, everybody gets more back. And when you and we get out there and campaign, you begin to realise just how many people have benefited from policies introduced by the SNP. People that may not have the Twitter followers or even the media contacts to share their stories. But you know what? Those people's stories, their experiences, are just as important as everybody else's. The 90,000 children lifted out of poverty and having their life chances improved thanks to measures that we have introduced, such as the game-changing Scottish Children. What about the tens of thousands of young people attending some of the world's best universities right on their doorstep with without paying a single penny in tuition fees. Or the thousands of parents, particularly women, who can go out to work every day thanks to the SNP's transformational investment in free childcare provision. Or the millions of people receiving prescription medication for free. Or the majority, let me repeat that, the majority of people in Scotland paying less income tax than they would elsewhere on these islands, thanks to the SNP's more progressive approach. Or indeed the council taxpayers, who are paying hundreds of pounds a year less in council tax than they would be in Tory-run England or Labour-run Wales. Every one of these investments is, in its own way, changing lives for the better. It's a down on Scotland's future. Investments in our people, which ultimately make our society and our economy stronger. But continued Westminster austerity, whether that's Tory or Labour, puts vital social policies like these absolutely under threat. And that's the real tragedy. It's the real tragedy of Sir Keir Starmer's leadership, or lack of it. With Labour leading the Tories 20 to 25 points in the polls, this would be the time for Keir Starmer to be bold and to be radical. Instead, he spends his time just attempting to neutralise Tory attacks by imitating their policies. As Prime Minister, he's wedded to the same failed Brexit-based economy that has caused such damage to our businesses and to our people. That's why every single SNP MP elected will fight against Westminster austerity, regardless of whether that's Tory austerity or Labour austerity. Friends, Keir Starmer doesn't need Scotland to win the election. Scotland needs SNP MPs to make sure that we are not ignored and that Scotland's voice is heard. So my offer to Keir Starmer is that where we can, we will of course work constructively with a future Labour government to introduce measures for a fairer country. Let me give you some examples. We'll do everything we can to prevent any further Labour backsliding on green investment. We'll fight to protect the NHS from creeping privatisation at Westminster. We'll work with Labour if they want to end the two-child cap, to lift children out of poverty. And if they're open to it, we'll share our experience of how we introduce the Scottish Child Payment. And so that the UK government can introduce a UK payment for children. Although it's of course not for us to determine what is in other political parties' manifestos, I believe that every party standing in this election should make a commitment to introducing the child payment just as we have done. It's been transformational in our efforts to tackle the scourge of child poverty here in Scotland. So we stand ready to share that experience with anybody else looking to introduce such a measure. But friends, our ambition goes far higher than simply trying to protect Scotland from Westminster. Page 1, line 1 of the SNP election manifesto will say, vote SNP for Scotland to become an independent country. And why? Why? Because of our core belief that every decision about our country should be taken in Scotland. Because Westminster doesn't work for us, doesn't work for Scotland. And so that any elected Scottish government has the full range of powers needed to build the kind of country, to build the kind of society that we know is possible. On the issues that concern most people, their standard of living, that need for independence has never been more urgent. Far too many people completely failed by this UK economy. Wages stagnating, inequality high, investment low. Both Labour and the Tories are committed to that Brexit-based economy, no matter what the cost is to Scotland. So on this most important of concerns, the economy and living standards, both Labour and Tories are offering more of the same. Economic decline, still decline, even if they manage it more competently. So for Scotland, it doesn't have to be that way. We have so many advantages we all know. Massive renewable energy resources, world-leading universities, brilliant industries, our food and drink sector, advanced manufacturing, tourism, wonderful creative sectors. I could go on and on. And when we look at independent countries in Europe that are like Scotland, what do we see? Countries that are far fairer than the UK. Countries that are more prosperous, more wealthier than the UK, more productive than the UK. So with all of our advantages, with all of our human talent, all of our galaxies, why not Scotland? Friends, given Westminster's economic freedom, we have a duty to set out the case for a better future for Scotland. This election, it represents that important moment for Scotland's independence. Keir Starmer will use every single vote for Labour in Scotland as a vote against independence. He will argue that every vote for Labour is a vote of confidence in Westminster control. So the message is very simple. If you believe that decisions about Scotland should be taken in Scotland, if you believe in independence, then you must vote for the SNP. If you want to see an independent Scotland, you have to get out and you have to vote for it. It's up to us in the SNP to win your support for that cause. That's exactly what we intend to do. But friends, this is going to be an exciting campaign. Exhausting, I can promise you, like every election campaign that we have. But an exciting one. It's one that I'm looking forward to. I know you're looking forward to as well. Over the next few months, I know that you will join me in working harder than we've worked before to win the support, to win the trust of the people in every single community in this country. See, I'm proud to lead a party with a record of delivery and the vision for a more prosperous and fairer future for Scotland. I lead a government and a party that stands for what it believes in. We're guided by our values. We're guided by our compassion. We're guided by our unwavering commitment to always put the interests of the people of Scotland first and foremost. If we do that, we take that message to every single doorstep in the country, and the people will continue to place their trust in us. So let's take that message to every doorstep, that there is a better alternative to the misery of broken Brexit. There is hope as an independent nation taking her rightful place in the European Union. So let's get out there, let's win this election, let's make Scotland a better, fairer, greener, more prosperous nation for everybody. Thank you very much.